Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter card game review. Today's game is a game involving dice rolling by Foxtail Games called Lucidity. It is a six-sided nightmare game. And in the event of the game playing, you can play up to 4 players, about 30 minutes to 45 minutes per game, and about 13 and up. What you start with is a dreamer board, and on the dreamer board you're going to select your sleep track. There's 3 different types. Depending on how far along the track you want to go is how much of a push your luck action it's going to be. You got a hunt track, where if you roll certain symbols you will end up losing the game, as well as an exhaust track over here, which if you roll certain sleep symbols you can lose points, followed by the point track down here. If you get all the way up to 15 points, you will potentially win the game. One last round will occur, and the person who has the most points at the end of that round wins. And finally over here you've got, this is the shadow track, where you've got the 4 different nightmares. And you've got different nightmares. You've got envy and imprisonment, you got the depths, and then you've got my favorite, the nightmare of primeval fear. If you ever fill that track up, you become that specific nightmare. Now, while you're going ahead and filling the tracks up, you're going to be doing different abilities for these things. And the idea of the game is to get those 15 points. You can win as a nightmare or as a dreamer. Let me go ahead and show you what the game looks like. Alright guys, so here we have a 2-player setup for the game Lucidity, right? You got your 4 different nightmares, they're off to the side. You've got your turn summaries, 1 for each player, and then each of your dreamer boards. Now, the game is fairly simple. I already explained basically the different parts, the hunt track, exhaust, points, sleep tracker, as well as the shadow tracker. But you're also going to get a bunch of die. You use all these dice here, as well as these little things here. Now, these little things here will be placed 1 per different sleep track for each person, so you could choose either to start here or here or here on your turn. And you're going to basically be pulling dice out of this bag here, and as you pull them out you're going to roll them and you're going to replace them and all that good stuff. So that is basically the components of the game: a bunch of dice, a bunch of great looking cards. Let's go ahead and talk about how the game plays. Okay, so it's the first turn of the game and you're the first player up, right? Well, you get this handy dandy little turn summary chart, as well as on the back you have the different dreams and what they do, right? So, on the first thing you do on your turn is you take your little scorecard and you take your little, I guess it would be a token of some sort, and you choose which dream track you want to start on. You can either start on the easy, medium, or hard, and depending on which one you start on, that's how many dice you pull out of the bag. If you chose the easy one, it's fairly simple. It's 3, 5, 7. So the first thing you do is go into this bag and pull out 3 dice. Here they are. I got 2 reds and a green. And you put back 2 of any kind you want. Maybe I'll put back the 2 red. And then you simply roll the 1 die you have left. Now, if you would have picked the other tracks, 4 or 5, you would actually end up having 2 or even 3 dice left over. After you roll the dice, there are certain symbols that happen and they take place. And then the next phase of the turn begins, where you can choose to continue or not. The whole push your luck, right? So you could choose to pull out 5 after 3. So you pull out your 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then you put 2 back, so put 2 yellow back, and you roll once again. And finally, your last chance is on 7, and if you successfully go through all 3 of these phases, not turning into a nightmare or dying, or ending the game by getting the most amount of points, it passes to the next player's turn. Let me go ahead and tell you guys all the different symbols or sides on these die and how they work and how they're represented in the game. Okay, so let's do an example turn. Now, these are the 4 different dice, first of all, and you have points on there, and then you've got eyeballs, and then you've got a sleep symbol, and on some of them, especially the red one, it has a hunt marker or symbol. But generally, it's just going to be eyeballs and points and sleep. All right, so the first turn, we'll just say, we'll start with this guy here, and let's actually do the medium one, 4. So we're going to take this bag here, pull 4 randomly out of the bag, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Take 2 away, roll the other 2. Now, there's a bunch of different symbols you can get. So here we go. We got a hunt, we got a hunt marker or symbol. So we put it on the hunt track. If we ever get 4 of these, we lose the game and we're out completely. And then we get eyeballs. Now, depending on the eyeball color is where it will go on the track. If at any point your eyeball tracker fills up at the end of your turn, you become a nightmare, and you simply will remove all the markers from here as well as from here, and you become the nightmare. And on your turn, something happens. But we'll go ahead and talk about the rest of these things. So first of all, I got the blue eyeball. That means that because I got that, I have to do the effect. Draw and roll 1 extra dream. So I just pull 1 out of the bag, and then I roll it. Oh, 1 point, so I put on the point track, right? Now, if it happened to be envy, I'd re-roll 1 dream of my next player's choice. So if I was playing, and the person to my left would actually decide to make me re-roll one of these things, probably he'd make me re-roll my point. I'd roll it again, and now I got a sleep symbol. Okay, the sleep symbol, let's talk about that. If all 3 of these spaces get filled with sleep, then you are going to possibly lose points, depending on what points you have on the board. If you have no points, it's no big deal, but if you did have points, like you had, I don't know, let's say a yellow, if I can get this on there somehow, like that. And let's say I get a red. Red has actually 2 points on there, which is nice. Okay, I pull a color out from the bag. Oh, it's yellow. I would lose all the yellows on the board, and I'd only get to keep the other colors, right? And then all of these would go away, provided all 3 of these were filled, right? Now in my turn. What else? We got Imprisonment. Switch 1Z to a eyeball side. So if this was actually a sleepy or exhaust side, it would actually turn into an eyeball and it would stay right there on the board. And Primeval Fear is you may move 1 eyeball to the hunt space. But remember, if you get 4 of these at any time, you're out of the game. Now, that being said, at the end of your turn, if you either don't want to keep going on the track or you can't, then you simply will either remove 1 eyeball from anywhere on the board or all of these sleep symbols. Now, remember, though, that because this is an eyeball on the sleep tracker here, you can only choose to remove this 1. And if there are 2 eyeballs, you can only remove 1 as well. But if there are all 3 sleep symbols, you can remove all 3. All right, let me go ahead and talk to you about the different nightmares and how they work. Okay, so you've got a good idea of how the turns work, going all the way through your track and then passing your turn. You could become a nightmare, you could lose the game, or you could win the game by getting those 15 points. Let's talk about the nightmares and how they work. Now, when you become a nightmare, you're no longer a dreamer, you're actually a nightmare. And nightmare doesn't necessarily mean you lose the game. What it means instead is, instead of your turn as the dreamer track where you go along the track, instead, you're going to be simply drawing 2 die out of the bag, putting 1 back, and giving an opponent 1 of these die. Also, it means that whenever an opponent rolls your die and lands on a symbol based on the card, you will do an ability. For instance, the Primeval Fear right here. If your opponent ever rolls, or opponents ever roll an eyeball or the hunt symbol on a red die, you activate an ability. And it simply says you get to move an eyeball on the Dreamer's card, who basically rolled that symbol, and move it to a hunt space on their board, which means that if they do that 4 times, they lose the game. As well as whenever anybody rolls the eyeball or the hunt symbol, you actually get a point on your scoreboard as the nightmare, so that's the way you can win the game. Envy is either the dreamer rerolls a dream of their choice, or they reroll 2 dreams of their choice, and you take any points. That's kind of cool. Imprisonment here is move a eyeball on the dreamer's card to a sleep space on their card, which can slow an opponent down a lot. And finally, the Depths, draw 2 dreams, return 1 to the bag, and the dreamer must roll and apply the effect. Now, whenever you roll any of these nightmares, what do you call it? Eyeballs, you will actually have to give them that. Also, nightmares can, on their turn, instead of choosing to activate their ability, they could instead gain a point from anybody's board, provided that point is on their board and it's the same color. So for instance, if you had a blue point, right, on your board, on your point score, and I was the blue nightmare, on my turn, instead of taking my ability, I could actually take a point from your board and put it on mine. That being said, that's the idea of how to play Lucidity. 15 points, finish the round. Person with the most points is the winner. If everybody's dead, or if everybody is a nightmare, then the person who has the most points as the nightmare wins. And there's also a couple variants and different things about this game. They're very interesting. For instance, one variant, which is kind of cool, which I'll discuss a little bit, is if you have a point on your score tracker and you roll a die and you don't like that die, once per turn, I believe, you can take off that point from your score tracker, and then you can choose to re-roll that die, stopping some bad effects from happening. A cool little variant you could add to the game. Anyway, that's the idea of how you play Lucidity. Let me tell you what I think about it. Okay, so Lucidity from Foxtail Games. 1 to 4 players. I mean, you could technically play with 1 player. I guess it's technically 2 to 4, but you can play with 1 if you want, I suppose. It is a very, very fun game. And not only that, it's a very, very thematic game. You do feel like you want to become a nightmare. You want to avoid being a nightmare. So you've got that stress in the game where you have to decide how many die you want to roll. And do you want to keep rolling? Or, oh no, you have to stop because you need to remove some stuff off of your board because otherwise you become this or that. And maybe you want to become a certain nightmare and the game's leading you to become a different nightmare. So there's all that stuff. You also have to determine if you do want to become both a dreamer and a nightmare, what point do you turn into a nightmare? Because once you go nightmare, you don't go back, right? Oh, that is a bad joke. But anyway, that's the idea of the game, right? Is you're trying to push your luck as best as you can as the dreamer until you finally cannot push your luck anymore, in which case you're now a nightmare and you're trying to score those points. You can win as a dreamer, but it's fairly difficult to win as a dreamer because you have to roll points, and most of the time you're rolling eyeballs. At least I am, right? A very fun, interesting game. We did a live play on it recently. I think it was yesterday, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of craziness going on. Sometimes you just get a lot of luck in these games, and sometimes you get a lot of no luck. You can turn into a nightmare on your first turn, whether by accident or by choice. As well as a dreamer, you can get up to like 10 points on a turn. Just just need those die rolls, right? So there is that bit of randomness. So if you don't like randomness, you're not going to like this game that much. It is a dice chucker, right? And it's a push your luck. So you're kind of determining the strategy in the game. You could be slow and careful and only pull a couple dice at a time, and then you would actually be able to control how your dice were rolled to a certain extent, while avoiding the enemy from doing actions, especially if everybody else is a nightmare and you're the only dreamer left, which is oh so stressful. Nevertheless, the components are great, the dice look great, the art on the game is wonderful. I really enjoy this dark kind of artwork. It's got the beautiful eyeballs, even the nightmares are all really, really cool looking. Primeval Fear specifically, really cool looking. Wonderful set. We did some stuff on Instagram with this just because we really enjoyed how it looked and how it all worked together. Wonderful flow of the game. Wonderful playing with people. I mean, really good, a lot of fun. We played this over and over again after the live stream was over. We continued to play it. That's how much we enjoyed this game. So if you're interested in it, I definitely suggest you check out Lucidity from Foxtail Games. Alright guys, thanks for watching another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter card game review. If you like Lucidity by Foxtail Games, definitely go ahead and check it out in the description below. It should be going on now or fairly soon from now. Also, if you enjoy our content, go ahead and check out the rest of our videos here on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. As well as our website, unfilteredgamer.com. Blog posts, Kickstarter lists, and even more giveaways. If you're interested in looking at the newest Kickstarter games, you can just simply go to the site and scroll through, really user-friendly. No more searching on Kickstarter. Thank the Lord. Hallelujah. Anyway, also, go ahead and check out our affiliates, Devitos Gaming, as well as the Giveaway Geek, and everythingboardgames.com. Some wonderful, great sites full of giveaways and other blog posts and interviews. They got even more content on their sites than even I do. Anyway, guys, we appreciate you watching, and once again, we look forward to seeing you next time.